General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Southborough Housing Opportunity Partnership Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Southborough's website at www.southboroughtown.com. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting or participate may do so in the following manner: www.southboroughtown.com/remote meetings. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on Southborough's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Good morning, everybody.
Good
Calling
morning.
meeting to order. So, first order of business, if you don't mind, I'd like to approve the minutes as amended. So you should have two copies. One is redlined with changes and then a final draft for us to approve. Did everybody get those?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So I just had one change.
Okay.
And I don't think, do you know when the red line version went out? I don't remember seeing a red line.
Yeah, I didn't see that either.
It was attached.
Uh,
There were two sets of minutes on the one email. The first one, I think, was the red line, and then there was a second one, which was the changes were made.
so I have,
Or am I the opposite way? The red
So,
line?
no, Dorian, you got the red line version, but everybody else got the,
Yeah.
because that was just the edits that I made and Karina made. And so this is like the,
Oh, well, I apologize.
just checking.
you had the special privilege to see our internal.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize, guys. So
Sorry about
Given.
that.
can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Well, Chelsea has a comment.
Sorry, I still have a change.
Okay, sorry.
Chelsea, can you tell me what line?
Yeah, row 49.
49, yep.
Yep, so the sentence starting, Miss Malinowski, it should be was asked if other towns. I didn't ask, I was asked and then answered.
Gotcha. Okay,
Okay, that's it.
that's it?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Anybody else?
Okay. Motion, can someone make a motion to approve the minutes as
I
written
approve.
with that one change?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as amended from October 22nd.
Get a second? Okay,
Second.
Alex. Okay, roll call vote.
I'm sorry, can I, I'm just noticing that the approval of the minutes, small thing, but I'm just noticing that it says that I was absent at the last meeting for the approval of minutes in line 138.
Let's see. Give me one
Was I?
second.
I thought I was at the last meeting.
So 138.
I don't know.
I guess I don't remember. I'm wondering if, did you abstain from any? No, because I would have said you abstained.
No.
Okay, so you were there.
Did you leave
Sorry.
I was
early?
there. I mean, it's easy to overlook me. I sort of hide in the corner, so.
Sometimes there's some copying and pasting that goes on. So, and I go a little blind.
I don't want my perfect attendance record to be blemished.
I know.
That's right.
I'll fix it. Sorry about that.
Yes,
No
'cause
problem.
I will
Thanks,
hunt you down.
Kate.
Okay,
Alright.
does anybody have any other changes?
Nope.
So we have two changes.
Yeah.
We have a motion on the floor to accept the minutes as amended. We have a second from Alex. Any other discussion? Okay, so we'll do a roll call vote. John,
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.
Chelsea,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Dorianne, aye. Okay, minutes are done. Okay. HPP Implementation Planning. So at our last meeting, we had a rather lengthy discussion about how to implement this lovely document. And we had talked about hiring an outside group to help us with a 5-year strategic plan. In order to do that, we're gonna have to take a couple of steps. We're gonna have to vote to put out a bid for an RFQ to secure funding. And that's probably gonna be anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000. Probably, hopefully closer to 10, maybe 12, but I think we should go to the higher end like we did when we did the HPP. I'd rather not have to ask for more money a second time. We're going to have to send a letter to the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which is Lisa Braccio, requesting the funding. That's going to have to get voted on at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, hopefully on November the 24th. We can't call a meeting now for November the 17th, which is actually their next meeting. So we're gonna have to do that on the 24th. We need this strategic plan in order to help us plan how we're gonna go forward with affordable housing. And we need help in securing a way to transfer those CPC funds into our Affordable Housing Trust Fund so that our hands are not tied anymore, so we can actually accomplish something. So this is a very important next step for us. I hate asking for more money, but we need to spend that money in order to get this job done. And I just want to see what everybody else's opinion on those steps would be.
So if I may, Dorian,
Yes.
I've spent a lot of time thinking about this after our conversation last time, and I went back to the HPP that we have. And does everybody have either a hard copy or electronic copy if I reference some pages? Do you have it in front of them?
Everybody had it emailed to them, I believe, right, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I
So
could
everyone should
pull it
have
up.
this
if-
document.
Actually, Sarah, if you want to, do you mind pulling it up and sharing?
Yeah,
your
sure.
screen just so everybody's looking at the same thing.
Yeah, just.
I
give
just
me
want to
one.
make sure that that Dorian, I understand exactly what we're looking for, because after I went back, I think we have some options within the plan itself.
Okay. And not spend money? That would be great.
Yeah, that's what, well, at least that's where I'm at right now, unless there's a.
Good. No.
compelling-
I'm all for not spending money if we don't have to. I hate asking for
Okay.
more funding for this stuff. So I just want to accomplish something. We need to get some affordable housing. It's just really important.
Mhm. Sorry, Sarah, I.
Sorry, I always have it like at the ready, and this is like the one time I didn't, so I apologize.
Or if
Just
you
give
want me to
one
share,
second.
I have it up on, I think I can get it up on my computer too. If you,
Okay,
if that's easier.
yeah, if you already have it up,
Let me just, all
you should be able to share your screen now.
right, hold on one second. Let me just pull it up.
Thank God I'm not the one doing it because I am not
Oh, I could get there.
technically
It's getting to the server from home. I have to get the.
Oh, that's
map
okay.
going.
I can pull it up right here. So,
Sure, thanks.
Thanks, Chelsea.
oh, you're welcome. So share screen.
Can I find it? There it is.
Yeah, Sarah, just for future reference too, I was digging through my emails. I couldn't find where I got actually been sent a copy of the final HPP electronically. I don't know if that was sent to everybody and I just missed it, but I just couldn't
Sure,
pull it
sure,
up.
I can resend it. No
Yeah,
trouble.
whenever you get a chance.
Yeah, I'll do that today.
Thank you.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so if I go down, I'm on page, so Forever is looking at their computer or their own copy, page 2. So this is, to me, this is a housing strategy. And at first I thought, oh, maybe it's just what they generally put in the beginning of HPPs. But then if you look at number 4, it actually references Southborough specifically. So I think that this is actually what our strategic plan is. And I'm just going to go through the high level bullets. I'm not going to go into each sub bullet, but the first one being enhance local capacity to plan, advocate for, develop, and manage affordable housing units. So I think some of the things that play into that are like the housing authority, that I know John and Alex sit on. Number 2, identify sites for creation of affordable housing through new development, redevelopment, or preservation. I think that this is really what SHOPSI should be actively looking at. And do we have options on Route 9 for any sort of development? What comes on the market every week that is a potential for affordable housing? Where in town do we have opportunities that land is available that we could work with somebody on? So it's actually identifying those areas in town that we think are viable options, right? And I think having Jesse on this committee is helpful as well, because some of those areas may actually be in a non-residential zoned area. And I think if we could get him to kind of explain to us if something were, if a property were available and possible for affordable, what would we need to go through from a planning board perspective to get that site ready for some residential area? So I think number 2 is a big piece, and maybe we should look at delegating 1 or 2 people to actually reach out to landowners or developers on things that they own or see as a possible option. There's also a lot of information that I'll get to in a little bit about what other towns have done in terms of doing larger scale projects. 3, update zoning to create opportunities for development of affordable housing and to encourage diversity in housing options. So obviously part of this is what's going on with the downtown initiative, although I don't think that that's the be all end all for any zoning requirements that we would need to do, because downtown isn't going to solve our affordable issue. But that this piece may come after we kind of identify some of the areas that would be helpful to look at. And then number 4 is assist Southborough residents to obtain or maintain housing that they can afford. So this, I know that we have a senior work off program that's kind of halted right now, but I do know that we have that implemented. Can we expand on that program once kind of the COVID era dissolves? And then I don't know that we have a first-time homebuyer program, but if that's something somebody's interested in, then maybe somebody on this committee goes and does some research on what options we have for first-time homebuyers to try to encourage people to be able to buy here. So I kind of see this as our strategic plan, and I would also add a 5th item to the strategic plan, in that if our goal is to really try to increase our housing stock for affordable, the money that we have allocated right now, and I can go through that deck that I put together for this meeting as well, but we're going to need more money than what's in there to do a larger scale project. And there's grant funding available, like through MassWorks. I certainly am not an expert on what's available, but I think we could delegate that again to somebody on this committee to figure out what grants are available, what cycles are available, and how that piece works. And then the last point I'll make on kind of the strategic plan before I stop talking is on Habitat for Humanity, those kinds of organizations that are nonprofits and help build affordable housing. Can we reach out to a few of those to see how that process would work, and if that's a feasible path to go down for Southborough?
Excellent. Thank you, Chelsea.
Sure.
One question.
Yeah.
Would it help or confuse things if I set us all up to receive from multiple listing update on all land and houses that come on under a certain amount? Obviously, we're not looking at $1 million houses, but say under 600,000 or something like that. There won't be a whole lot in this town under 600,000. And if I could have all of us updated by our email as they come on, if people want that, or if they find it annoying, then we shouldn't do it.
We're not going to buy anything that's 600,000. We don't have the.
Okay. Yeah. So what would be? I mean, that was just an example,
right.
Setting up a limit to cut it off.
we probably want something that we can get for as little as possible. So if there's an older house that really needs to be gutted and revamped, and we could have someone like Habitat come in, so maybe like between the $200,000 and $300,000 range.
Okay, then we
I
won't be
think six
flooded
is
at that.
still, yeah, I think 6 is still too high for us, Alex. I don't think we have the ability to pay for something like that.
The
What about
question, whether people want that update or whether it'll be annoying, not the amount we can set any way we want.
Right. Well, I was going to let you guys know, I was going to try to plan a few meetings for next year. Before COVID hit, we were going to have Habitat come in, and I have another group to come in just to talk to us and explain their process to us, so that we really get an understanding and a handle on how they go about what they do, and how it will benefit Southborough and help Shopsy to accomplish some affordable housing in town. So I was already looking at the Habitat connection, and I have another group too. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head, but I was going to try to plan those for possibly January, February. So just so you have that in the back of your minds, I'm just trying to get through this part of it right now. But I did have it planned before COVID, but that all fell apart. So.
Hey, Dorian, can I also just respond to Chelsea's very elegant presentation a moment ago? I just had one sort of granular point and then one broader point. One is that my recollection of our last conversation on this was that, we were talking about filing a warrant article to change the funding mechanism for us to get more money into the Housing Trust Fund from the Board of Selectmen and from the town. And I think Chelsea's point, which I thought was a good one, was, hey, we can't just ask for money for that without a plan showing why we need the funds and how we would use them. It's a bit of a vacuum to just say, hey, we want more money, we want a funding mechanism for the broad purpose of creating affordable housing. So I thought that was the purpose of having COG develop this 5-year plan, to get more specific as to what we would need the funds for and how we would use them. So I don't know whether these broad housing strategies in our HPP that we have now, which are broad, aspirations for goals, would be enough to present to the town Board of Selectmen in the town meeting and say, hey, we need more money because we're trying to do these broad-based goals. So that was one question. I mean, I'm not presuming the answer, but I don't know whether presenting these 5 things to the Board of Selectmen is enough to say, give us more money and,
Agreed.
improve the funding mechanism.
So do you mind if I respond to that?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Chelsea.
Okay. So I agree, Tom. So as a selectman, if you brought this before me and said, okay, I need another 200,000,
Right.
or it's really actually CPC that we would go to have a warrant article. If I were CPC, I'd say, okay, that's great. Come to us with what you're going to buy, or what site are you looking at? What due diligence have you done on what grants are available? And I think I think this is where I wanted to bring this up, because if this is what the strategic plan is that we would get from spending $10,000, then I don't think that's a good use of money.
Right.
If the strategic plan is going to be, here are the 10 sites that you should look at, and these are the next steps that you need to do, I think that's a different story. But I think that's an
Gotcha. I see what you mean. Well, why spend $15,000 if you have COG give us a more gussied up version of what we already have here?
Well, right. I think to be effective, we need to have an active Shopsy committee that's going to do some of these action items that come out of this housing strategy here, so that we can come up with a cohesive plan on, this is what we're looking
more specifically. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And
I get it. That makes a lot of sense to me. And so that was my granular point. And then a broader point is just philosophically how we as Shopsy can best create affordable housing. And, in my view, Shopsy's job really isn't to itself create affordable housing. I think our mission is to facilitate the creation of affordable housing. And so, to say that we're going to, one strategy is what we're talking about: go out and get Habitat for Humanity and identify a site here and a site there to create one unit of affordable housing is one way to go about doing it, but it's not super efficient, and we're not particularly well set up to do that. Shopsy, we're not a developer. Our mission is to facilitate the creation of affordable housing. We're not developers. If we want to do a serious development project, that's 10, 15, $20 million, which we don't have, and we don't have the expertise to do it, and we're not real estate developers. And so I think that our mission more is to, manipulate the levers of government to have affordable housing be a policy priority. And that's why when we talk about things like zoning, and particularly this downtown village business district, I agree, that's not going to solve our affordable housing needs, but that is one avenue where, I think we should have been more involved in having an affordable housing component of that. I think zoning is more efficient to create the circumstances where developers who do have the funds and do have the expertise and do have the skills to come in and develop property are incentivized to create affordable housing. So, if there's a project like that can create, maybe not this particular project, but can create 20 or 30 units of affordable housing, and through zoning and through maybe not this particular project, but other sites in town, that to me is a more, bigger ticket and efficient use of our skills and mission than going around town and trying to find an isolated project here or there to create one unit of housing. So I just think that we're not particularly set up to develop housing ourselves. We're more set up to create to get other people to create the environment for affordable housing, and then to create the incentives to people to actually do it.
That's exactly what Chelsea was saying. We should reach out to the landowners and business owners on Route 9 that have some of these buildings that potentially could be available. Right now, Southborough, I think, was at like a 23% vacancy prior to COVID. They're expecting office buildings, the footprint of an office building, to go down by 40 to 60%. That could open some opportunities in some of these smaller ones on Route 9 that might be looking to redevelop. They might not have enough, say it's not an A space or even a B space. I'm sure we have some C spaces on Route 9. I've been in a couple. Those C spaces could be turned into, either a mixed use with apartments above and office down the bottom, or just all apartment. I mean, that if we could incentivize some of the building owners to think about that way too, instead of having an empty building, it might not be a bad idea. So I think, Chelsea, your idea is great to reach out to these different people and try to find different ways and different options. Because like I said, I think the office building footprint is going to be a lot different in the upcoming years, personally, with people working from home, and, they're finding it's more effective than they thought it would be with people working from home. So that's an option.
So go to that point, John. Again, you're right. I agree with you 100%. So, but the question for us is, I think, how do we get people to be incentivized to convert those vacant properties to affordable housing? I don't think we should do it. I don't think we have the skills to do it or the funding to do it. But the question is, what can we do as a strategy to get other people to do it?
And that's where a strategic plan would come in place, because we're not qualified to do that stuff, and that's going to take a lot of time to do it. And for us to sit here.
Well, I mean, zoning is one mechanism,
right.
That's the sort of the obvious mechanism.
We can do a few of the steps, but the overall idea of how to go about it and to plan it, I mean.
Yeah, and I think
look up grants, I can do that type of stuff. I don't mind looking for land, but how are we going to facilitate that? We have to go to zoning. We have to go to planning. I mean, I think we need guidelines as to how to accomplish some of this stuff and what to do with it. And I don't mind doing work, but I'm also, I'm limited in what I have knowledge to be able to do. So
I also think it's important to, obviously we're looking at the strategies, but also look at Appendix 2, which is at the end of the document. Those are the short-term action items that COG identified as, kind of giving us the most bang for our buck in terms of moving forward. And, the development of the 5-year strategic plan is on there. There's definitely other action items that are on there that, we could probably work creatively to push forward without, expending additional funds. So maybe that's another place within the document that we might want to just focus some time and energy in terms of our discussion.
yes, because they wanted to create a core action plan. So that's budgetary projections, funding needs, if there's requests, prioritization of the funding. It's long-term ideas. I just think I don't want to spend any more money on this, but unless we have a strategic plan in front of us with steps that we can follow or help people follow or builder, whoever, anyone to get this housing done, I don't think that we really are capable of doing it on our own with ShopSafe. I think we need help with this. And it's not that I want to spend the money. I understand what you're saying, Chelsea, and I see this here, but seeing it and reading it and then implementing this on our own, I don't think that it's going to work. And that's what's happened in the past with ShopSafe. Nothing's been accomplished. They haven't been able to, their hands have been tied. And so I believe we need a warrant article to transfer CPC funds. We need to be proactive about what we need to do to get the affordable housing here. We need to talk to zoning. We need to talk to planning. I understand like some of the things we need to do, but someone like COG would definitively know you need to do A, B, and C in order to get to X, Y, and Z. I see what's written here, and Chelsea, you brought up some really great points, as did Tom. And the back of the book here, number 2, this all has to be pulled together, and we need a plan in place as to we need to do this first, this second, this third. That's what we need to get any of this done, at least in my opinion. So do I want to spend the money? Absolutely not. I'd rather not. But I also don't want to spend a month trying to write a strategic plan for us when I don't have the knowledge or the ability to really do that and make sure that it's solid and it's going to work. If that makes sense to anyone.
And my sense also is that some of, some additional grant opportunities and funding might require a 5-year strategic plan from the Housing Trust Fund. I can verify that with COG, but I'm pretty sure I remember them, indicating that this type of document might be a necessity moving forward. Again, maybe it's not the first step for this board. Maybe, this board can take some additional steps kind of on its own independently without funding, new document creation right at the moment. But it may be something that we will have to cross in the road at some point.
Well, if we go to CPC, we have to do a presentation. We have to fill out a form. We have to have a definitive plan in place that we want to accomplish with that money. They're not just going to, I believe either the Affordable Housing Trust Fund or the selectmen have to put that warrant article in place. I don't think it comes from us. But you don't have a plan. We're just asking to transfer money so we can do something, but we don't know what we want to do. We don't have any type of a plan in place. And yes, I've looked at land. I've looked at different building. I've looked at that stuff already on my own, but what steps do we need to do in order to get anything done? And I personally don't have the knowledge. Tom would be more knowledgeable about that. He was a zoning guy. And Chelsea's board of selectmen, she was on advisory. She may have some ideas. And yes, so we could keep we could keep trying to piecemeal something together, or we can just hire someone, get it done, and get it implemented, get it in place. And so I guess I guess we have to prioritize. Do we want to spend the next few months trying to do this on our own, maybe getting it accomplished? Or do we want to just bite the bullet, pay someone to get it done for us, and then start working on what we have to do to get it done? And trust me, I really don't want to ask for more money. We just got $16,000 to get this HPP, but I also don't want to just sit here and be stagnant as a board and not accomplish anything. Our mission is to get affordable housing, and we have not done that in a very long time. And I would like this group, we worked very hard. I would like to get something accomplished. So
can I ask Sarah and you, Dorian, a question about the plan that COG would do? Because on one level, you know, I agree that if COG's just going to come in and take these broad statements and just turn it into a 60-page version of the same thing, I don't think that's money well spent. But if COG, who already has gone through the process and the groundwork to figure out what our town is, they already know the demographics, they already know a lot about the town, can they help us develop a plan that's more specific as to what we can do? So for instance, in my mind, I know I'm always a 40R. You guys are sick of hearing me talk about 40R, but you know, we talked about the South Union School building as being a potential opportunity to turn into affordable housing. That sounds like a specific project. I don't think we can do that ourselves. That's a significant project. But you know, what are the strategies we could implement to try to make that, you know, projects like that turn into affordable housing? Can we rezone that as a 40R and get, you know, I'm just picking a number, 30 units of housing out of that, and you know, 20% of those are affordable? Can we, you know, in other words, can COG help us on a more more specific plan for what we can do rather than just broad housing goals?
Rentals count towards our 40B count as well. So rentals, anything rental is deemed affordable.
You know,
So
our organization, we don't really care about the 40B count because we just want to create affordable housing. We don't care whether, you know.
Right, but if you can incentivize a builder to put in an apartment,
yeah, it would be helpful for the bigger town goals of increasing our 40B.
Not only that, because at least then if you have a studio apartment, that's something somebody younger can get into on a 40R even. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A 40R can be a rental. It doesn't have to be condos or anything, correct?
No question about it. That's true.
But one unit can be affordable, but we get.
If you have one rental, all units count.
We would get credit for all of the units with the GHCD, which is.
My only point is the credit for the 40B goes to the bigger picture with the town of whether, you know, we've met our 40B housing goals, which is great. But for our committee, we don't really care about the market units that they create and get counted towards the housing. We care about the creation of actual affordable units.
Right.
So if there's a 30-unit apartment building and they all get counted towards our subsidized housing inventory for purposes of 40B, but only, 5 of those are affordable. For our purposes, we only care about the 5. We don't care.
Correct.
I just have a process comment. For years,
we get over our 40B housing goals and we get protection against.
For years, we've made reports and nothing happens, or little happens. Just as a process comment, off the top of my head, and I'm not even sure of my own opinion here, but it seems to me if we were to pick 1 or 2 projects like this school and put our energy behind making that happen, it would be a lot more productive use of our time.
Getting back to CPC funds and having a specific project, Dorian, when you were talking about on the attachment that we got with all these other different towns, they had no specific projects, and they were getting $100,000 of CPC funds put in every year and just on their warrant article. I don't think, getting back to, I've been saying this for a while, I don't think you actually have to have a specific project to have it on the warrant article. You can just put 4 affordable housing on the warrant every year. and get your piece of the pie for housing from CPC. A lot of towns have already done that, and it's a set precedence. We just never did it. It's a state precedence in many other towns, and all they do, the warrant articles that I looked at, it just says, for affordable housing, and it goes into the housing trust, and that's just, a housekeeping article, like when they do the CPC funds at the beginning of the town meeting.
What do they do with the money when they get it?
It goes into a fund. It goes into the housing trust. And then they can use that for affordable housing if projects come up. It's there. You don't have to have a specific one and lose it. You actually have it. Chelsea can probably talk more to that because Chelsea, are you the one that put this together?
Yes.
And if so, by the way, thank you. It's excellent.
You're welcome. So actually, do you want me to pull that up to just talk about the funding?
Yeah, either way, I have it pulled up too. That's one I am prepared with.
Okay, that's fine. Why don't I'll stop sharing and you can share, Sarah?
Sure.
Okay.
What document are we talking about? Because I have no idea.
We're talking about the funding schedule that I had put together.
That Sarah sent out the other day?
Because
with the agenda?
I think then it will address John's point.
I don't have that. Hold on.
Hold on one second. See back here. There we go.
Oh, sorry, Sarah, can you pull up the one with the actual funding?
Oh,
amount?
yep, I have both of them. Sorry, they're side by side.
So I think everybody got this email to them from Sarah this week. So I worked with Carla McAuliffe, who's our town accountant, to put this information together. And so I'm going to talk about the schedule on the right first. So that's not current balances. That's just a history of town meeting appropriations for housing only. So starting in 2007, money was sent or approved at town meeting, and the first column there is appropriated but not transferred, and then the second column is the trust received. So I believe that the trust received column was used to buy the Fitzgerald and the Stockwell units that are still deemed affordable. So those actually were in the 354,000 was actually received by the trust and then utilized for housing needs. In 2009, 2011, 2012, like John said, there were warrant articles that were specifically allocated and appropriated at town meeting for housing needs to go into the trust. So those have been appropriated. That's $196,000 that have not been transferred into the trust. They're still under CPC control, but they've been appropriated at town meeting. So that $196,000 then transfers over onto my left-hand side schedule where it says appropriated, not transferred to trust. So that money is available if we were to find a project that we wanted to use housing funds for. The trust would need to go to CPC, say we have a project, we have, we need the $196,000 to spend it. Here's what it is. And CPC would have to authorize the transfer of those funds from CPC's control to the trust. Did I lose anyone yet?
Nope.
Not yet.
Okay. So I'm gonna stick with the
I can follow. You're doing good.
Okay. So then on the left-hand side still. So as you all know, a percentage of our taxes go into CPC buckets every year: housing, historical, open space, general fund. So I asked Carla what the current balance is in CPC for housing only, and that's $359,109. So that's the top line there, CPC available funds for housing. That has not been appropriated at town meeting. Okay, so that's the bucket that we would be talking about if we were to set up a yearly warrant article to have it flow into the trust. So that's what available funds is. I didn't get into the general fund because I felt like that was just mixing apples and oranges. I just wanted to stick with what housing was. The second line we talked about, the 196, is available. We would just need CPC to release the funds to the trust. And then the trust balance, which is like Dorianne has referenced, that's the Board of Selectmen, Dorianne and Bill Boland sit on the trust. The balance right now is $70,000. And the proceeds of Stockwell will increase that balance once the sale happens. So I didn't include the sale of Stockwell in there because I didn't think it was appropriate to assume how much that profit would be. So essentially right now, dedicated to housing on the town books is $626,000. Approximately 265,000 is available for the trust to spend, assuming that CPC would release funds when a project became available. So, John, to your point about other towns have a yearly warrant article, they do, but they're also using the funds. Whereas I think given our spending from the right-hand schedule, we haven't appropriated money since 2012, and we also haven't used money from that was appropriated in 09, 11, and 12. So I agree that should be our goal, but I think we need to prove our track record first.
But could that be because we didn't know how to use it and how to get it?
Oh, I think so.
In the
Yeah, but
past.
I think we just need to have, I think we need to have something that we know we're going to do, or, I think we need to be a little bit further down the line than we are today to say we should set up a yearly warrant article.
But so the $359,000 that says the CPC funds available for housing, that's
Yep.
for past years that was allocated from the town
So that's what's been collected under the CPC housing bucket
over the years.
over the years. Yeah. So it's on the town books, but it's in the CPC housing bucket, not been
So-
appropriated.
So if we found a project like I'm just going to use the union school type of thing. I'm just for giggles. So if we found a project that we could buy the property from the town, we could use this money and then bond the rest of it with the other. If that would, I'm not saying that that's a good use of that piece of property, because I agree with Tom. That's a perfect 40R with a location. I just mean a similar project. Let's just say an office building on Route 9 that was going to be foreclosed on for $1 million. That's something that maybe we could purchase and then somehow bond the rest with the CPC funds moving forward to turn into affordable housing. Is that
So that's an option. So
an option?
yeah, so that's an option. But in order to bond a project that specific, I believe, and I'm not a guru on this, but I think that would actually have to be a town meeting, separate town meeting warrant article if you're going to bond
With CPC funds.
It's not just a transfer of the CPC funds because you're asking town meeting to bond it.
How did they bond the Burnett House? Because I know that was a loan, wasn't it? Or
It was an article.
Yeah, it was a warrant article.
a separate one from the CPC as well? Okay.
Yeah.
So it can
But
be
in
done.
your example, John, that would be, the front end part would be use of CPC funds. The funding mechanism for the rest of it through the bond would be a town meeting. But your example is an example of how those funds could be used.
And wouldn't that almost incentivize a developer to come in and do affordable housing? If we've got the property, they just need to somehow, I don't know.
I mean, there are other ways to do that. I mean, we can acquire properties. I mean, we talked about zoning as one way. We give zoning incentives to people, to developers to come in and take property and make it, profitable for them to develop it and include affordable housing with incentives and things like that. That's one thing. But also, if we buy a piece of property and then send out, an RFP or program to developers to propose projects for use of that property where we could convey the land to them for less than market value and make it worthwhile for them to do. That's another way to do it. Is to acquire an underperforming land and then invite developers to come in and submit proposals. But there are other things too. And again, I'm just a dopey commercial real estate lawyer. I don't know all the vagaries of this stuff too either. But that's where I think COG may have, this is what they do for a living, and that they know, that this. They are dealing with affordable housing and housing all over the place, that they have more expertise in this and what strategies we can implement than maybe any of us are individually, qualified to do.
I mean, we can give them the direction of being very specific and give them examples. We've got the buildings on Route 9. We've got the South Union School. I mean, Sarah, can't we give them a direction that, to look at those and see if there was something we could do for housing on that in that strategic plan?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, so Chelsea, I do have a question. So, on the CPC, my understanding from probably my first meeting when I was there, is that they have a bucket of money that was already approved to be transferred, and the housing authority has not asked for it to be transferred yet.
Yep.
It's already been approved. Is that the 359 or is that the 196?
The 196.
The 196. So we just need them to transfer it. We don't have to get a warrant article or anything. The money's just sitting there to be transferred.
Right. But I think we need to have a reason to transfer it.
Could we use could we use the funds from the housing trust? Would it be easier to go ask them for the money for an implementation plan out of the money we already have? I was just thinking back, like I know in one of the references I looked at for CPC funds was the town of Billerica. They had sent me a bunch. I forget which town it was, but they were trying to purchase land, and they were able to use the CPC funds for housing to appraise and use it for administrative costs of that appraisal and managing that land. So if we're looking for an implementation plan, wouldn't that actually be part of the HPP, which is under housing? And couldn't we use CPC funds for that and just have to go to the housing trust to ask them for any money instead of go to the selectmen and then trying to go through the CPC? Couldn't we just cut out all the middlemen and just go to the housing trust?
We were going to the housing trust.
I probably should have paid more attention at other meetings.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what we're doing. We're gonna send a letter to Lisa Brascia, who's the chair of the housing
Second cup of coffee just kicked in about a month
that's
ago.
okay,
Sorry.
No, that's totally fine.
It is confusing though, it's all the CPC funds and how that gets transferred to the HPP, and then it is. I'm with you, John. It is confusing.
No, John. You know what? But I got it, and so I'm very proud of myself because I actually got that piece.
I got it, but it was 2 months late. So,
yeah. Chelsea, my understanding is that money, that 196, has already been approved. We don't need to explain why. We just need to ask them the housing authority just needs to ask them to transfer it. It's already been approved at town meeting.
I think that's a conversation with CPC.
We don't need that. We don't. Need I
don't want to speak for CPC, but it's under CPC's control. But it does not need town meeting approval. So
No, it's already been approved. It's already been approved at town meeting, and because this is how they explained it to me when I was in the meeting. The Affordable Housing Trust has not asked for the transfer. It's a simple request that's needed, and they will transfer it. There's no other paperwork that needs to be done. It's just a simple request. And that's what Freddie Gillespie had said at the meeting. And I didn't understand why they didn't transfer it, but I wasn't
I don't either. Yeah.
But that's all. My understanding is that's all that's needed right now is a simple request. Okay,
I just wanted to show what the available funds were.
No, this is great.
And where they lay, so that we would know. I guess my point is we have a decent amount of money sitting in there. But back to the strategic plan, because I think you kind of want some direction on that, Dorian, by the end of this meeting. I guess where I'm at is back to Tom's question. Can we see an example of a strategic plan that would be above and beyond the strategic strategy or the strategies that are listed in the HPP? Because if we're just going to get a broader brush of what strategies are, like, that doesn't really help us.
That's not a good use of money.
Right.
Can I make a quick suggestion? I mean, could we have COG? I'm sorry, I'm forgetting their names. But can we have them just come back? Come back and sit with us and say, hey, we were thinking about the strategic plan. Are there specific things you all can put into a plan for us that aren't just as Chelsea and I are saying, a gussied up version of the housing strategies we already have in the HPP? Can you COG folks come in and help us develop a more specific plan with identification of specific projects and more concrete steps to take? Is that something you guys could do to make it clear to us whether it's worthwhile to spend $10,000 or $15,000, to have them do that? I mean,
We can ask them to come to our next meeting, right, Sarah?
They're not going to come to any additional meetings unless we have a contract with them. You know,
Okay.
Well, no, this is
they're-
marketing.
So they
This
wouldn't
is for-
come in
this
to
is
meet
for them to
to-
come market and say, hey, we want a piece of business. This is what we can do for you. They won't, they wouldn't come to do that. I mean,
I
we're not
would.
asking them for a specific plan. We're just saying, hey, help us, to understand what you would do for us.
This is what we're looking for. Can you do it? Kind
Right.
of
I mean,
deal.
again, I could ask them to do that, but if we are talking about spending, and I said this in our last meeting, if we're talking about spending between $10,000 and $15,000, that is an RFQ that is supposed to be a non-biased process, and we are not supposed to communicate with vendors
Oh,
that
really?
could potentially
Oh,
bid on this particular
$10,000.
contract. So
What if we tell them we're
There's
looking to
that.
spend
I mean,
$9,999?
I think
No,
I
we're
still
gonna
think that
go
it's
super transparent on this. I'm not gonna play with
I'm
that.
joking.
No. I know you are, but no.
I still think that it's worthwhile to explore the option of having a very small, $1,000, $2,000 contract with COG to have them assist to provide general technical assistance to answer these questions, to, kind of get us turned in the right direction as a board. Maybe even less than that, maybe even just like, a few $100s for them to offer their time and their services. They, I think, were gracious and put in a lot of work for the HPP and answered a lot of questions after the fact. But at this point, they are beholden to their bosses in terms of where their time is going, and even, spending an hour or two kind of talking to us in a meeting, that is billable time, so they have to be cognizant of that at this point.
Well, it would be useful to know, I mean, whether, to
I
go
mean, they
to,
can do it. I haven't, I've emailed them. I asked them what it would cost. They said, their ballpark was 10 to 12. I did reach out to MAPC to, get some information as to what they thought, a contract that like this would be. I reached out to Ralph Wilmer and he said that he thought that sounded about right, but to reach out to his boss, who I did, she has not gotten back to me yet. I mean, there are definitely other samples that I could, kind of try to find online so that everyone could take a look. But I mean, I think what I recall from our discussions with them, that obviously they wouldn't try to reinvent the wheel and, create another document that was the same as the HPP. It would definitely have, I'm confident to say that it would have the level and depth that you're looking for, if we went with them as a vendor to provide, that additional support.
Is there any way we can get a copy or at least an example of what a strategic plan would entail from another town? I'm not asking for them to give us their entire thing, but at least we can see a better idea of what it actually.
what level of
what would
detail
be
it is,
included in
whether
it.
they're talking about specific projects, how
Right.
granular it is, yeah.
Yeah, sure. I can reach out to COG to get a sample. I can also just kind of see if I can find some general samples and send those around.
Why are they connected in any way?
I don't know. Hang on, guys. So sorry. This is interrupting my Zoom calls. I got a call. It comes into the computer.
It's because you're using a Mac.
Okay. I'm not technologically savvy here, guys. But you saw that my phone rings and it interrupts my Zoom, and I don't know how to shut that off except shutting the phone off, which is not cool. So, okay. Thanks, honey. Sorry. Technology and me, we don't get along. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for that call to interrupt us. Do you guys want to wait on this and think about it and see if we can get a sample from somebody else, strategic plan, and take a look at it? I don't want to rush this, but I want to rush this, if that makes sense to you. So I would say we table this discussion for the next meeting and try to come up with samples of ideas of what they do put into a strategic plan. So we can't call vendors that we're going to put, into the bidding process. But maybe we can get something from another town, like maybe from Westborough or Northborough or Framingham or somebody, not asking for their whole plan, but maybe the first 5 or 6 pages where they break it down as to what they're looking at. Does that sound like a better idea? Because it's a lot of money again, and I hate asking.
I would be more comfortable with that because I'm not completely sold on doing it without us kind of knowing what we want for the
Right.
town. I will say that Sudbury and I believe Yarmouth have done a lot for affordable housing. So my guess is that they have a pretty robust plan. So those may be some good towns to look at. I can do some more research and circulate it through Sarah
Thank
too.
you.
But and obviously if anybody else wants to take us to, I mean, the more people that are looking at that, I mean, I'm not a guru on this. I'm just kind of learning as I go. So if anybody else wants to look too, I think the more
Yeah, and I will too. I'll start asking around. I got real estate contacts. I can just, I can sort of look around as well. Again, but we're all kind of, moving around in the dark here, trying to figure out how to get our hands on this. So I'm happy to.
Yeah, and I'm happy to step in and do some of the legwork as well. So let's table this vote and discussion to our next meeting. So we'll end that here on this. I don't have much time left. Could we get a quick update of the joint meeting? Tom, you were there, and Sarah, could just kind of give us an idea. I wasn't able to make it. Just a quick update.
Yes. So my quick takeaway is, I mean, they're really narrowing the scope of the footprint of the new zoning district, which, I find kind of disappointing because I think that a broader scope would have allowed for a higher degree of housing in general, not necessarily affordable housing, but housing in general for the project, which I think from their goal standpoint would help support the project if there's commercial uses on Main Street to have more housing in the area would support it. But I think the takeaway is they don't plan to have, John is of course more in the details as well, but they're not going to have a ton of housing. So they don't really see a ton of opportunities for affordable housing either. And I would say the zeitgeist of the group is to put less emphasis on affordable housing. They talked about we can't have everything. Everyone wants different things, and I translate that into meaning, maybe this is not going to be a good place to have affordable housing. I spoke up and said, we'd like to have 20% affordable housing. We should, tweak the language so it's not building specific. And I felt like it was basically falling on, I was a voice in the wilderness. I don't think it was getting much traction.
Where did John go? Because we don't have a forum.
He lost Wi-Fi. So he's trying to get back on. Oh, there he is.
Oh, there he is. Okay. We just lost our quorum and that would freak me out. Okay.
Just for a second.
So and Tom, I'm not sure if you had a chance to read through all the comments related to the affordability component in the document that came out. But as I was kind of, and I know that EDC had reduced the number of units from 8 to 4 and 25. If it's up to 4 units or 4 units or more, 25% had to be affordable. I actually was thinking that downtown would maybe not have quite 4 units in some instances. So I said in my comments, 25% or a minimum of 1 unit, meaning if there's 3 units, at least 1 has to be affordable. So that was my feedback on the affordability component. So it will be interesting to see, Dorian, but there's going to be another meeting on November 24th. So I would encourage anyone on this committee who hasn't submitted comments in that format yet to get their comments in, and they will be included. And the hope is that Judy Barrett, who's the consultant for this project, will be addressing kind of the main hitting points. And I think there were a decent amount of.
Oh, that's great to hear. Because I know that I'd heard that there was a push from EDC to increase it to 25% across the board and not limit to 8 units. But then when they sent out that revised version of it, I saw 12.5%. I saw the same language. So I thought that maybe just didn't go anywhere. So if that's still a live possibility, that sounds great.
It is. I I think it would, I think you're right. I think there's a lot of competing priorities with that, and
Yeah.
it's not that big of an area.
Yeah.
But my point is, if we want to have an affordability component, do we want to have an affordability component? If we do, we need to make it achievable. And where it's such a small scale, I think we need to think outside the box on, you know.
Is there still any opportunity to make it a bigger scale? Because, you know, if they expand the footprint down Newton Street and down Park Avenue, I mean, that would be a more ripe area for housing. I know people don't want a ton of housing right on Main Street, but I mean, if the footprint of the project was expanded, there would be more opportunities for housing. Is that pretty much a dead issue at this point, John?
No, but the problem with that is I don't think it can be as dense of a housing thing down there that anybody is afraid of or wants, because unfortunately it's right. There's not that much land. Wastewater problems down there is going to be a big problem for any of these. I think it's going to be mostly small scale projects. I don't think that there's opportunity for a more dense project down there due to things beyond our control, such as wastewater and things like that.
Oh, I thought they were trying to solve the wastewater project and the problem. Trying to as well. Maybe not. Yeah.
We're trying to, but yeah. I don't know if it's obtainable. So a lot hinges on a lot of different things. One, there's different opportunities. Like Tony Kwan owns Southborough Medical, and across from that, he has a wastewater treatment plant that he's already got set up under that solar field. But he doesn't want he doesn't want restaurants tied into it. He doesn't want beauty shops tied into. This is what I've been told. I haven't heard that firsthand. So that's an issue there. Then if the town, if we could get the land behind Southborough House of Pizza, we've talked about putting an underground treatment plant in there. But, you know, that's going to cost $1 million. So will the town want to fund that? If the town doesn't want to fund that, it's going to have to be a Betterment Act. Will the businesses downtown want to do that for a Betterment Act? So we're trying to find solutions to it, but there isn't one yet. You know what I mean? So
can't we at least, even if we don't have the infrastructure, can't we just do the zoning and then worry later if the, you know,
well, we're trying to. So we've talked about expanding the zoning because Christos Baltas, he owns the house across the street, the building, the multifamily across the street from Marlboro Neighborhood Bank, whatever it's called, the old Marlboro Savings Bank on the corner of East Main Street there. And I know he wants to expand it for that building to be included into the bylaw. So we're reaching out to the different abutters and to find out if they would be interested in or hearing and trying to get their feedback on expanding the zone. So no, it's not a dead issue on expanding it. And we had talked about going from down Newton Street all the way to Southborough Medical, and or at least on that side.
I know, but have those people lived in those houses. You can't really include that in there.
You can, because it's not. You don't have to use it for that. It actually increases the value.
If we zone it, that doesn't mean that the people who are within the zone have to do anything different with their houses. It just gives them an opportunity later if they sell the house or what, you know, the zoning isn't going to force anybody to change anything what they're doing with their properties.
Like we already have houses that are in that type of a zoning downtown right now.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't mean it has to be. They're in that zoning and it's just a house.
All right. Well, this is EDC stuff. So we
no. This is just housing and expanding it. So you're saying that you have to change it. You don't. If the zoning changes, the house can still be just residential. That's what we're saying. It doesn't have to have business. It can be.
Nothing may ever be done with it. But if we zone it out, nothing may ever change. But it does give all of a sudden developers an incentive to possibly acquire those houses and offer those homeowners a lot of money. They can choose to turn it down and keep it the way it is. And it is an EDC issue, Dorian, but it's from our standpoint, we're trying to create more housing. So I think we should advocate for more housing in the town of Southborough in general. If they're talking about rezoning the downtown business district, and it's a bigger footprint, which would include more housing, or a smaller footprint that wouldn't include housing, I think it's our interest to advocate for a bigger footprint.
So, and if somebody sold one of their houses there and we had the money, we could possibly buy it or ask a builder to do it. And
I think it's more giving it a developer incentive to go, you know, acquire property to do a bigger project.
All right. So let's continue this discussion a little bit at the next meeting as well, because
you're right.
And our hands are still tied. Would you guys like to meet in December, or do you want to push this to January?
I think we should meet in December. Just if we're going to continue to have input into this downtown district, then it's moving fast.
Well, I'd like to meet in December too, but I don't know how everybody's schedules are with, it's the holiday. I know we're all still stuck in COVID, so there's probably no parties and stuff. All right, so how about
I
if
want to avoid the 25th.
I'm free on the 25th.
I'm not. I have a house full, supposedly. How about if we met on, I have a personnel board meeting. I was going to say December 9th. How about just Thursday, December 10th? How does that look for everybody?
So
That works for me.
Fridays are really easy for me because I don't have any kid drop off. It's
Well,
just challenge.
Friday the 11th I have, but that's Hanukkah. That's the beginning of Hanukkah, I think. Is that a problem for anybody?
Not for me, and I'm Jewish.
Okay. So do you want to meet Friday,
I
December
don't
11th?
think you're allowed
Friday,
to.
December 11th at 8 a.m.
That works for me.
Okay, so we're going to table our discussions and we will, we'll just work it from here. So we'll try to do some more research. I'll do some research, Chelsea, Tom,
I will too.
Sarah. So anybody who can get any more information that we can discuss. If you get research and you pull paperwork and stuff together, if you wouldn't mind sending it to Sarah, and then Sarah can send it to all of us, but don't send anything to anyone on the board specifically or to everyone on the board. If you send it to one person, you're fine, but please don't just, send it out to everybody because then we'd be breaking open meeting law. Okay, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you being here today. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second.
Seconded.
Okay, Alex, it's a roll call. Chelsea,
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and Dorian, aye. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
Everyone.
And
Thanks.
we will see you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, bye, guys. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kate.